Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Collectible Trading Card Reading Series. Here for our very first reading of the new year 2021. I'm your host, Sandy Yanone. I'm the author of Boats for Women. So grateful to be with the visionary folks that created Headmistress Press and this fabulous reading series, as well as the trading cards that come along with the reading series, which were really the inspiration for the reading series. Today, we have such a very special first read year. I've been thinking quite a bit about how meaningful it is to have Lesléa Newman, who is number 2, reading the work of Gertrude Stein, card number 15, and how appropriate it is, a poet, an activist, writer, community member of such a comment as our first reader in the new year. I want to again welcome one and all to this truly unique monthly reading series. A reminder that you can purchase trading cards as well as Headmistress Press titles at the Headmistress Press website at any time. Spectacular titles for any time of the year, not just in the new year. Well, I'm going to share with you the some things about our fabulous featured reader. It's truly not only my pleasure but my deep honor to be able to introduce Lesléa Newman to you, an artist of singular importance in literary, political, and popular culture for the groundbreaking work she's accomplished in her career to advocate for people of all ages and identities. And here is what her card number 2 has to say about her. Lesléa Newman was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1955. Her poems, written as a teenager, were published in 17 magazine. She has published 65 books for readers of all ages, including the children's book. And who doesn't know about this book? Who doesn't remember when this book came out? Heather has 1989. The novel in verse, October Morning, a song for Matthew Shepard from 2012. And the poetry collections, 3 poetry collections from Headmistress Press. Lovely, I Carry My Mother, and the companion to that collection. Just recently released her latest, I Carry My Father, all from Headmistress Press. Among other honors, her work has received a Stone honor from the American Library Association. Eloise Klein Healy has said, Lesléa Newman's work as a writer is characterized by a tremendous zest for living. What I like best about Lesléa as a poet is her ability to get her finger on the pulse of a moment and keep it there longer than most writers can or will. That's how she gets to this, applying creative pressure and not letting go. From card number 2 in the reading series, I understand from Risa Dennenberg that this is the original set, the first set, and it is out of print currently. Maybe we will revive it in 2021. Now that we're doing this, well, let me share. Lesléa is going to be reading her work as well as in this is what I love about this reading series, during the work of another poet in the reading series, and Leslie will be talking about Gertrude Stein. So let me share a little bit about Gertrude Stein with all of you from her card number 15. Gertrude Stein, 1874 to 1946, was born into a wealthy Jewish family that moved frequently during her early years, including a stint in Europe before settling in Oakland, California. She attended Radcliffe, where she studied psychology with William James. Stein moved to Paris in 1903 and spent the remainder of life as a writer and art collector. An influential figure among Parisian bohemians, Stein held solemn gatherings shared with Alice B. Toklas, her lifelong companion. In her writings, Stein was a daring experimenter with unique style in her use of language, imagery, and playfulness. In Tender Buttons, Objects, Food, Room, ordinary objects are rendered in streams of language collages, much as a cubist rendered still lifes. Stein's works are replete with lesbianity, exemplified best in the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas, her own autobiography written in the voice of her lover. A collection of Stein's papers, including 300 love notes between Stein and Toklas, is housed at the Yale University Beinecke Library. Would you all please join me in welcoming Lesléa Newman, who will be sharing the work of Gertrude Stein with us as well today. Thanks so much, Lesléa.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. I think I'm unmuted. You can tell me if I'm not. Well, I have been steeped in the work of Gertrude Stein this past week intensely, but really for the last 40 years, because I just adore her. I've always loved her. So I jumped at the chance to pick her. So I'm going to read just a little bit from my Headmistress titles, because really I want you to hear her work. I want to talk about her life and just really celebrate who she was. Very important writer to many people, including me. And I'm going to have a book launch from Headmistress on February 6th at 3 o'clock. So if you want to hear my work, you can come back then, but I'm really going to focus on Gertrude. So, but first, just a few poems. So this is my book, Lovely. And I love that the epigraph is by Gertrude Stein. So how do you like that? All kinds of connections here. So what Gertrude Stein, the line that actually Miriam picked for me is, quote, "She is very lovely and mine, which is very lovely," which I think is lovely. I can't help it. So I'm just going to read two short poems from this book. One is a sonnet, and it is called Seduction in Red. Like six inch red heels on a Hollywood starlet, like glistening strawberries baked in a tart, like elegant nails painted this side of scarlet, like two strands of rubies worn close to the heart. Like a crystal glass full of expensive red wine, like a cherry convertible bought on a dare, like sun-ripe tomatoes too plump for the vine, like freshly washed shoulder-tossed smooth auburn hair. Like the blush of a bride as she walks down the aisle, like a bracelet of garnets cleft onto a wrist, like the lips of a lover curved up in a smile, like two tender nipples right after they're kissed, like a crimson silk slip tossed aside in the night, like that first apple Eve held for Adam to bite. And another love poem. So this is called Ghazal from my beloved. A ghazal is a Persian form of poetry with repetition and rhyme scheme, internal rhyme scheme. So you'll hear that. Thinking about Gertrude, I tried to pick poems that, had some repetition and some connection to her, which I think this does. Each night in our bed, as I face my beloved, I open my arms and embrace my beloved. Her skin smooth as sand on a tropical isle, my hands swoop and swirl as I trace my beloved. Remember that night long ago in the park when the moon watched us go to first base, my beloved? I'll run like the young girl I was long ago if you promise that you will give chase, my beloved. Is there a more glorious sight to behold than us in our leather and lace, my beloved? In a dyke bar 10 butches, each handsome and fine, which one of them makes my heart race, my beloved? Women spin round me as countless as stars, but no one on earth can displace my beloved. 2 decades ago, when you whispered be mine, I gave you my heart, Mary Grace, my beloved. So I just want to say that this poem is a little dated because now it's 3 decades. How do you like that? Okay, so I'm going to move on to I Carry My Mother, another Headmistress title of mine. And this book begins with a series of triolets, a 15-part series. A triolet is a French form with 8 lines, 2 of which repeat, and there is also a rhyme scheme. The deal. My mother's doctor tells me here's the deal. She's got 6 months to live, a year at most. Her words lodge in my heart, his words lodge in my gut, a heavy meal. My mother's doctor tells me here's the deal. I'm very sorry, I know how you feel, but keep your chin up, don't give up the ghost. My mother's doctor tells me here's the deal. She's got 6 months to live, a year at most. My mother's name is Fagel, little bird, and soon she'll spread her wings and fly away, leaving me behind without a word. My mother's name is Fagel, little bird, her voice the very first I ever heard. Oh, and how on earth will I survive that day? My mother's name is Fagel, little bird, and soon she'll spread her wings and fly away. At last it is my mother's final hour. No more second chances, no reprieve. The stench of death is bitter, sharp, and sour. At last it is my mother's final hour. My father has lost every ounce of power. He wipes his runny nose upon his sleeve. At last it is my mother's final hour. No more second chances, no reprieve. And I'm just going to read the title poem, which is called I Carry My Mother. And this is a rhyming pantoum. I carry my mother wherever I go, her belly, her thighs, her plentiful hips, her milky white skin she called this side of snow, the crease of her brow and the plump of her lips. Her belly, her thighs, her plentiful hips, the curl of her hair and her sharp widow's peak, the crease of her brow and the plump of her lips, the hook of her nose and the curve of her cheek. The curl of her hair and her sharp widow's peak, the dark beauty mark to the left of her chin, the hook of her nose and the curve of her cheek, a delicate wrist so impossibly thin, the dark beauty mark to the left of her chin, her deep-set brown eyes that at times appeared black, her delicate wrist so impossibly thin, I stare at the mirror, my mother stares back. Her deep-set brown eyes that at times appeared black, her milky white skin she called this side of snow, I stare at the mirror, my mother stares back. I carry my mother wherever I go. And so I Carry My Mother came out in 2015. My mom died in 2012. And then my dad lived for 5 years without her, and he died in 2017, so just about 3 years ago. And of course, I always knew I would write a book about him. So this is the galley. I don't have my books yet, so I don't know if you can see the beautiful painting, which really looks so much like my dad. I cried when I saw that painting. It's the same cover artist, Carol Marine, Marine. Check out her website. She's so talented. So I'll just read a few poems from here. And I Carry My Mother is all informal poetry, like the triolet, the pantoum, etc., a villanelle. This book is different. It's also a form, but all the poems are in the same form, which is the title acts as the first line of the poem as well. And the poem is written in 3-line stanzas. When my father wakes up, and that first sweltering night of that first scalding summer, soaked in sweat like my mother when she suffered those terrible hot flashes 40 years ago, He stumbles out of bed and lumbers up to the archaic air conditioner, fumbling for the right button to bring it back to life with a wheeze and a groan and a thump. Next, he shuffles across the faded carpet, slides between the worn sheets, and lifts the torn blanket to cover my mother, who will surely grow stiff from the frigid air blowing between them as she had for more than 60 years. Who could blame him for forgetting she had left him and was now slumbering on the other side of town, wrapped in a shroud beneath the stony, stubborn ground? How he missed her old, cold shoulder. And I will read the title poem from this book. I wish my father a very happy birthday and yell in his ear, "Dad, can you believe you're 90? He backs out of my hug, tilts his head to one side and peers at me intensely, trying to figure out if what I'm saying is true. Then he collapses onto a kitchen chair as if the weight of every day of those 90 years is pressing down on him hard. Got any words of wisdom, Dad? I try to lighten the mood. He sighs deeply, shakes his head vigorously, and then begins to speak. My mother died at 80, my brother at 50, my sister at 35. I don't know when my father died. Maybe he never did. He'd be 127 now, the old bastard, and it would serve him right. I haven't seen him since 1939 when he went out for a pack of cigarettes and never came back. I was 12 and went right to work shining shoes for a penny, selling newspapers for a nickel. Later, I went to CCNY and became a CPA. I was always a numbers man, but never thought I'd make it to 90. In my day, no one lived to be 90. Who would want to? Certainly not me. But here I am, blood pressure 120 over 80, pulse 60, all 32 teeth still in my mouth. How did I get to be so unlucky? I was supposed to drop dead at my desk when I was 75, maybe 80, and leave your mother $1 million. Who knew her days were numbered? 4 years more, and then poof, abracadabra, she was gone. That was some lousy trick, her disappearing act. How could she leave me to my lonesome, to carry on without her for 4 years, 8 months, 3 weeks, 6 days? He looks at his watch, 19 hours, 27 minutes, 32 seconds, but hey, he shrugs. Who's counting? And I will end with the last poem in the book. My mother is at the bridge table with Loretta, Gert, and Pearl when my father finds his way to heaven. Sit down, dear, she says, patting the seat beside her and barely looking up from the hand she's been dealt. The game is almost through. But my father is too overcome to sit. He stands and stares at his beloved, free of wheelchair and oxygen tank, happily puffing away on a Chesterfield King held between two perfectly manicured fingers, sipping a cup of instant Maxwell House, leaving a bright red lip print on the white china cup. Her hair, the lovely chestnut brown it was the day they met. Her face, free of worry lines, the diamond pendant he bought her on their first trip to Europe glittering against her ivory throat. She looks like the star of an old black and white movie who would never give him the time of day, but somehow spent 63 years by his side. I missed you, my father tells my mother, leaning down to kiss her offered cheek. Of course you did, says my mother, who always knows everything. She plays her cards right, and after Loretta and Pearl and Gert fold, she stands to let my father take her in his arms, and in their heavenly bodies they dance. So now I will move on. I'm just tossing things to the side here to talk about Gertrude Stein. So I'm just going to read 2 very short poems of hers to just kind of get us in the Gertrude Stein mood, okay? So this is actually where that epigraph from Lovely is taken from. So this is by Gertrude Stein. If you hear her snore, it is not before you love her. You love her so that to be her beau is very lovely. She is sweetly there and her curly hair is very lovely. She is sweetly here and I am very near and that is very lovely. She is my tender sweet, and her little feet are stretched out well, which is a treat and very lovely. Her tender nose is between her eyes, which are closed and are very lovely. She is very lovely, and mine, which is very lovely. And here's another poem written for Alice, of course. It's called Before the Flowers of Friendship Faded, Friendship Faded. I love my love with an L because it is like that. I love my love with a B because I am beside that, a king. I love my love with an A because she is a queen. I love my love, and an A is the best of them. Think well and be a king. Think more and think again. I love my love with a dress and a hat. I love my love and not with this or that. I love my love with a Y because she is my bride. I love her with a D because she is my love beside. I love you. Thank you for being there. Nobody has to care. Thank you for being here because you are not there. Okay, so I'm going to show you this postcard. Can you see that? Which I have had in my possession since probably about 1973. I bought it at the Strand bookstore in New York City. When I was in high school, I went to high school on Long Island, and I would escape to Manhattan every chance I could get out of the suburbs into the city. And so this struck me. I knew nothing about Gertrude Stein at that point, but I saw her and Alice, and I don't know if that's a wire or a tree or a bolt of lightning, but I was just so drawn to her. So I've had this for so many years through so many apartments and homes. And then over here, I have this framed piece of calligraphy. It's usually in my writing room, but I brought it out. And I started knowing about Gertrude Stein and her work when I went to the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics, which is part of Naropa Institute. And I studied with Allen Ginsberg and Anne Waldman. And Anne is really the one who introduced me to Gertrude Stein's work. And so I had a friend who was doing calligraphy at the time. And I had her do this for me. It says, everything begins with A, and I was right, and hold me tight, and be all right. And that has been hanging on my wall wherever I have lived for 40 years. So basically, my relationship to Gertrude Stein is just like an unrequited love or crush. It started as a straight girl crush because I read her before I came out. I just was so drawn to her. I loved her short hair. I loved her large body. I loved the fact that she was unapologetic about her large body and her unfeminine clothes, her relationship with Alice B. Toklas, and the way she used language, and her standard white poodle named Basket. Most of all, I loved her attitude, okay? She really didn't give a darn about anybody, about what anybody felt. She was a complete rebel. She lived her life the way she wanted to. She didn't care about anybody's expectations, which, you know, at the time she was born, I forgot how long ago she was born because I always think of her as so contemporary, but she was born in 1874. Can you believe that? And she was an out Jewish lesbian. So what were the expectations at that time for her to marry a man and be a wife and a mother? And she was like so not interested in that. So long before I knew that I was a lesbian, I knew something about Gertrude Stein's life made a whole lot of sense. And so I'll just talk a little bit about her. You heard what Sandy read on the card. So she was born on February 3rd in 1874 in Pittsburgh. And when she was 4, her family took her her father took her and the family abroad for a few years, and she fell in love with Paris. So this is a book of hers called Paris, France. And I'm just going to read a tiny little bit from there. I chose some of her more accessible work because I thought that maybe some people who are listening have never read her. And if we get into some of her stuff that's so hard to penetrate, you might be turned off by her work. And I really want to do the opposite. I really want to charm you with her work, which is really charming is the word I'd use. And there's also delightful, and there's a lot of humor to it. So Paris, France is exciting and peaceful. I was only 4 years old when I was first in Paris and talked French there and was photographed there and went to school there and ate soup for early breakfast and had a leg of mutton and spinach for lunch. I always liked spinach, and a black cat jumped on my mother's back. That was more exciting than peaceful. I do not mind cats, but I do not like them to jump on my back. There are lots of cats in Paris, and in France they can do what they like, sit on the vegetables or among the groceries, stay in or go out. It is extraordinary that they fight so little among themselves, considering how many cats there are. There are two things that French animals do not do. Cats do not fight much and do not howl much, and chickens do not get flustered running across the road. If they start to cross the road, they keep on going, which is what French people do too. Anybody driving a car in Paris must know that. Anybody leaving the sidewalk to go on or walking anywhere goes at a certain pace, and that pace keeps up, and nothing startles them, nothing frightens them, nothing makes them go faster or slower, nothing. Not the most violent or unexpected noise makes them jump or change their pace or their direction. If anybody jumps back or jumps at all in the streets of Paris, you can be sure they are foreign, not French. That is peaceful and exciting. So I was in Paris a year when I was 4 to 5, and then I was back in America. A child does not forget, but other things happen. So what happened was her family came back to California, and then her mother died when she was 14, and her father died when she was 17. So she went to live with her older brother in Baltimore. She attended Radcliffe, and she attended Johns Hopkins Medical School, but dropped out. That didn't work out for her. When she was 29 in 1903, she moved to Paris, where she lived for the rest of her life. Alice B. Toklas moved in with her on September 9th, 1910, and never moved out. So they were lifelong companions, and I just love this. This is what Alice said when she first saw Gertrude Stein. She was a golden brown presence, burned by the Tuscan sun and with a golden glint in her warm brown hair. She was dressed in a warm brown corduroy suit. She wore a large round coral brooch, and when she talked very little or laughed a good deal, I thought her voice came from this brooch. It was unlike anyone else's voice, deep, full, velvetly, like a great contralto's, like two voices. Of course, Gertrude Stein fell in love with her. How could she not? So Gertrude Stein called Alice B. Toklas Baby Precious. How much do you love that? And Alice B. Toklas called Gertrude Stein Mr. Cuddlewaddle. Okay. And so there in the 1980s, in some vault, I think in Yale, about 400 of Gertrude Stein's and Alice B. love letters were found, and now they are published. And actually, I just told my beloved, that's what I want for Valentine's Day. So, but I did find some snippets online that I thought I would read because, again, I think they're so charming. So this is Gertrude to Alice. Baby precious, sweet and mine, baby precious all the time, baby precious, darling wife, I do love you with all my life. Baby precious, tender and true, little hubby is all for you. Baby precious, lovely wife, baby precious, sweet my wife, dear baby. Different one. She is a tender page, and every page is open to me, and every page in me is open to she. Gertrude Stein used paper and pen a lot as sensual imagery, and also cows, which is really fascinating. So she often referred to Alice B. Toklas's orgasms as cows, which I can't read that without blushing, so I'm just going to read you something else. I kiss you, dear blessed wifey. I kiss you again, dear blessed wifey. I kiss you again and again and again, dear wifey. I just completely and entirely and everlastingly love you, dear blessed wifey. So that they had quite a love affair. So as many of you probably know, Gertrude Stein hosted very famous salons at 27 Rue de Fleurus. And actually somebody wrote an opera called 27 in honor of that address. She and her brother Leo were art collectors, and she was very well known for her art collection. She had Picasso, Cézanne, Renoir, Matisse, Toulouse-Lautrec, And the guests at her salon were or included Ezra Pound, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Ernest Hemingway, Sinclair Lewis, and Henry Matisse. When she was at Johns Hopkins, she got into a little love triangle, and she wrote a book based on that called Three Lives, which was published in 1909. And of course, there's a famous feminist bookstore in New York called Three Lives and Company. I hope it's still there. I'm not sure if it is actually. Some of her other work that is well known: Tender Buttons, published in 1912, The Making of Americans in 1925. Her first commercial success was published in 1933, and it is called The Autobiography of Alice B. Toklas. Now, it's pretty nervy to write somebody else's autobiography, right? It's not the biography of Alice B. Toklas. Really, the only person who could write a true autobiography of Alice B. Toklas would be Alice B. Toklas, but she did not. Gertrude wrote it. And then, just to be even nervier, Gertrude wrote a book called Everybody's Autobiography. So she felt like she could speak for everybody. So, but they were so entwined that Gertrude felt that she could take this on. So I'll just show you the cover, because look at you can really see this beautiful picture of Gertrude Stein. This is called The Autobiography of Alice B. Toklas. And I think this just really sums everything up, because this I'll just read you, this is the last paragraph of chapter 1. And so this is Alice B. Toklas speaking, but you have to remember, this is very important, that it's Gertrude Stein's writing. So Gertrude Stein is giving voice to Alice B. Toklas, what she thinks or has her say. Okay, so and just a little back matter, which is that Alice B. Toklas met Gertrude Stein's older brother and his wife. And that is how she decided to go to Paris, and that is where she met Gertrude Stein. So when she's referring to Mrs. Stein in this paragraph, that is Gertrude's brother's wife. Mrs. Stein brought with her 3 little Matisse paintings, the first modern things to cross the Atlantic. I made her acquaintance at this time of general upset. This is during the, right after the San Francisco earthquake and the whole city's on fire. And she showed them to me, and she also told me many stories of her life in Paris. Gradually, I told my father that perhaps I would leave San Francisco. He was not disturbed by this. After all, there was at that time a great deal of going and coming, and there were many friends of mine going. Within a year, I also had gone, and I had come to Paris. There, I went to see Mrs. Stein, who had in the meantime returned to Paris, and there at her house, I met Gertrude Stein. I was impressed by the coral brooch she wore, brooch or brooch, I don't know, she wore, and by her voice, as I read to you before. I may say that only 3 times in my life have I met a genius, and each time a bell within me rang, and I was not mistaken. And I may say in each case it was before there was any general recognition of the quality of genius in them. The 3 geniuses of whom I wish to speak are, you can guess one of them, Gertrude Stein, Pablo Picasso, and Alfred Whitehead. I have met many important people. I have met several great people, but I have only known 3 first-class geniuses. And in each case on sight within me something rang. In no one of these cases have I been mistaken. In this way, my new full life began. So this is really Gertrude's autobiography, but it is told in the voice of Alice. So, okay, this is amazing. In 1933, as I said, this was her first commercial success. And so she came back to America in 1934, and her visit was announced in every single major newspaper in the country. Okay, there was an electric sign in Times Square lit that said, Gertrude Stein has arrived. Now you can imagine any poet this happening for. She went on a 6-month tour to 37 cities in 23 states. And I love this. They had to cap her audience at 500. They had to turn guest number 501 and more than that away because there just wasn't room for them. Astonishing, right? So most people did not understand her lectures, but they were enthralled by her presence, her personality, and the musicality of her language. She was invited to have tea with Eleanor Roosevelt, and wouldn't you have wanted to be a fly on that wall? I certainly would have. After her tour, she returned to Paris. She never came back to the USA. She and Alice lived out World War II in a country house in France, and she died on July 27th, 1946, at the age of 72 after an operation for stomach cancer. Her last words, which were to Alice B. Toklas, were, "What is the answer?" And when Alice didn't reply, she said, "In that case, what is the question?" And Alice B. Toklas died on March 7th, 1967, and is buried next to Gertrude Stein. So let's talk a little bit about her writing. So it has been described as stream of consciousness. It's been described as cubism, looking at one thing from a lot of different angles, like a cubist painting, which, she's very influenced by Picasso. It's been described, this is my favorite definition, as a reworking of the patriarchal language. Gertrude Stein herself described it not as stream of consciousness, but excess of consciousness. I mean, she just has such an interesting mind. I love everything she says. So here are two quotes. One other thing she said before I give you two quotes about her writing. She said, because you will hear a lot of repetition in her writing, she said there is no such thing as repetition, only insistence. Now, come on, that is just so great. Okay, so here are two quotes that she said about writing. After all, everybody, that is, everybody who writes, is interested in living inside themselves in order to tell what is inside themselves. That is why writers have to have two countries, the one where they belong and the one in which they live, really. The second one is romantic. It is separate from themselves. It is not real, but it is really there. And here's the second quote, and these really are words that I live by. You will write, if you will write, without thinking of the result in terms of a result, but thinking of the writing in terms of discovery, which is to say that creation must take place between the pen and the paper, not before in a thought or afterwards in a recasting. It will come if it is there and if you will let it come. I think that is the best definition of the writing process that I have really ever heard. So what I'm going to read you is, to start, is part of a short story called Miss Fur and Miss Skein, and it was published in Vanity Fair in 1923. But before I read that, I'm just going to read a little blurb was written by Mabel Haynes, who is one of the people who was part of the love triangle at Johns Hopkins. It was Gertrude Stein, Mabel Haynes, and Mary Bookstaber. Mabel Haynes and Mary Bookstaber were really a couple. So the triangle part came from Gertrude Stein. But this is what Mabel Haynes is telling us in terms of how to read and understand Gertrude Stein. So I found this very interesting. In Gertrude Stein's writing, every word lives, and apart from concept, it is so exquisitely rhythmical and cadenced that if we read it out loud and receive it as pure sound, it is like a kind of sensuous music. Just as one may stop for once, in a way, before a canvas of Picasso and letting one's reason sleep for an instant may exclaim, "It is a fine pattern." So listening to Gertrude Stein's words and forgetting to try to understand what they mean, one submits to their gradual charm. So here's the thing. I am all about accessible poetry. I've dedicated my entire life to writing poetry that people can understand. I dropped out of a graduate program because the more I couldn't understand a poem, the more my professors held it in high esteem. And I was like, I just don't want to feel stupid. So I really work hard to make my poetry accessible. So you would think it's a little odd that I'm so drawn to Gertrude Stein, but I'm just so charmed by the musicality of her language. And I feel like she just blows my mind open in a wonderful way. And so I'm going to read you just the first page of Miss Fur and Miss Skein. It's a 4-page short story that has the word gay in it more than 100 times. And I'm not a historian, so I don't know if this is true or not, but some people like to credit Gertrude Stein with being the originator of the word gay coming to mean what it means today, which is gay. Okay. Helen Fur had quite a pleasant home. Mrs. Fur was quite a pleasant woman. Mr. Fur was quite a pleasant man. Helen Fur had quite a pleasant voice, quite worth cultivating. She did not mind working. She worked to cultivate her voice. She did not find it gay living in the same place where she had always been living. She went to a place where some were cultivating something, voices and other things needing cultivating. She met Georgine Skeen there, who was cultivating her voice, which some thought was quite a pleasant one. Helene Furr and Georgine Skeen lived together then. Georgine Skeen liked traveling. Helen Furr did not care about traveling. She liked to stay in one place and be gay there. They were together then and traveled to another place and stayed there and were gay there. They stayed there and were gay there, not very gay there, just gay there. They were both gay there. They were regularly working there, both of them cultivating their voices there. They were both gay there. Georgine Skeen was gay there and she was regular, regular in being gay, regular in not being gay, regular in being a gay one who was not one being gay longer than she was needing to be quite a gay one. They were both gay then, there, and both working there then. They were in a way both gay there where they were, many cultivating something. They were both regular in being gay there. Helen Furr was gay there. She was gayer and gayer there. And really, she was just gay there. She was gayer and gayer there. That is to say, she found ways of being gay that she was using in being gay there. She was gay there, not gayer and gayer, just gay there. That is to say, she was not gayer by using the things she found there that were gay things. She was gay there always. She was gay there. They were quite regularly gay there. Helen Furr and Georgine Skeen, they were regularly gay there where they were gay. They were very regularly gay. To be regularly gay was to do every day the gay thing that they did every day. To be regularly gay was to end every day at the same time after they had been regularly gay. They were regularly gay. They were gay every day. They ended every day in the same way at the same time, and they had been every day regularly gay. Now, come on, that is fantastic. I could go on, but you can find this online, actually. It's so charming. I just love it. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is read some more of Gertrude Stein's work, just a little bit. And then I'm going to read a little bit of work that were influenced by Gertrude Stein. And by the way, if you find this book, How to Write by Gertrude Stein, and you think you're going to learn how to write, it's just like what I just read, but even more so. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll be able to figure something out here, but I did not. Okay, so Gertrude Stein wrote children's books as well. And since I'm a poet and a children's book writer, I thought I would read just a little bit from The World is Round, A Rose is a Rose is a Rose. And on the back is this wonderful photo with Gertrude and Alice and Basket, the standard white poodle. Okay, so let us just read a little of this. The World is Round. And so I just want you to see, this book is just, it's so beautiful. It has, all the text is in a circle, right? Because the world is round. So there's an illustration and there's the text. So, Rose is a Rose, Chapter 1. Once upon a time, the world was round and you could go on it around and around. Everywhere there was somewhere, and everywhere there were men, women, children, dogs, cows, wild pigs, little rabbits, cats, lizards, and animals. That is the way it was. And everybody, dogs, cats, sheep, rabbits, and lizards, and children, all wanted to tell everybody all about it. And they wanted to tell all about themselves. And then there was Rose. Rose was her name, and would she have been Rose if her name had not been Rose? She used to think, and then she used to think again. Would she have been Rose if her name had not been Rose? And would she have been Rose if she had been a twin? Rose was her name all the same, and her father's name was Bob, and her mother's name was Kate, and her uncle's name was William, and her aunt's name was Gloria, and her grandmother's name was Lucy. They all had names, and her name was Rose, but would she have been, she used to cry about it, would she have been Rose if her name had not been Rose? I tell you, at this time, the world was all round, and you could go on it around and around. Rose had two dogs, a big white one called Love and a little black one called Pepe. The little black one was not hers, but she said it was. It belonged to a neighbor, and it never did like Rose, and there was a reason why. When Rose was young, she was 9 now, and 9 is not young. No, Rose was not young. Well, anyway, when she was young, she one day had little Pepe, and she told him to do something. Rose liked telling everybody what to do. At least she liked to do it when she was young. Now she was almost 10, so now she did not tell everyone what they should do, but then she did. And she told Pepe, and Pepe did not want to. He did not know what she wanted him to do, but even if he had, he would not have wanted to. Nobody does want to do what anybody tells them to do. Pepe did not do it, and Rose shut him up in a room. Poor little Pepe, he had been taught never to do in a room what should be done outside, but he was so nervous being left all alone, he just did, poor little Pepe. And then he was let out, and there was a great many people about, but little Pepe made no mistake. He went straight among all the legs until he found those of Rose, and then he went up and he bit her on the leg, and then he ran away, and nobody could blame him now, could they? It was the only time he ever bit anyone, and he never would say, "How do you do?" to Rose again. And Rose always said Pepe was her dog, although he was not, so that she could forget that he never wanted to say, "How do you do?" to her. If he was her dog, that was all right. He did not have to say, "How do you do?" But Rose knew, and Pepe knew. Oh, yes, they both knew. Rose and her big white dog Love were pleasant together. They sang songs together. There were songs they sang. Love drank his water, and as he drank it, it just goes like that, like a song, a nice song. And while he was doing that, Rose sang her song. This was her song. I am a little girl, and my name is Rose. Rose is my name. Why am I a little girl? And why is my name Rose? And when I am a little girl, and when my name is Rose, and where am I a little girl? And where is my name Rose? And which little girl am I? Am I the little girl named Rose? Which little girl named Rose? And as she sang the song, and she sang it while Love did his drinking, why am I a little girl? Where am I a little girl? When am I a little girl? Which little girl am I? And singing that made her so sad, she began to cry. And when she cried, Love cried. He lifted up his head and looked up at the sky, and he began to cry, and he and Rose and he cried and cried and cried until she stopped, and at last her eyes were dried. And all this time the world just continued to be round. Okay, I'm just going to read a tiny little bit more. So this is called To Do a Book of Alphabets and Birthdays by Gertrude Stein. And this is just the most gorgeous book I have ever seen. I mean, these illustrations are so amazing. Look at the back. Isn't it just gorgeous? I mean, it's so gorgeous. So I'm just going to read a tiny little bit. And this book Gertrude Stein goes to the alphabet. She riffs on every letter. And this is where this quote comes from. And oh, you can just see this also, this illustration from the book. Let me see that, get it in the camera. So, right, just amazing. Okay. Alphabets and names make games, and everybody has a name, and all the same, they have in a way to have a birthday. The thing to do is to think of names. Names will do, mildew. And you have to think of alphabets too. Without an alphabet, well, without names, where are you? And birthdays are very favorable too. Otherwise, who are you? Everything begins with A. And what did I say? I said, everything begins with A, and I was right, and hold me tight and be all right. Everything begins with A. A, Annie, Arthur, active, Albert. Annie is a girl. Arthur is a boy. Active is a horse. Albert is a man with a glass. Active. Active is the name of a horse. Everybody has forgotten what horses are. What horses are. What are horses? Horses are animals, were animals with a mane and a tail, ears, hoofs, a head and teeth and shoes if they are put upon them. If they are put upon them and then the horses lose them, and if anyone finds them and keeps them, he has lots of good luck. But now everybody has forgotten what horses are and what horseshoes are and what horseshoe nails are. Everybody has forgotten what horses are. But anyway, one day Active is the name of a horse, a nice horse. And that goes on. Okay, so I just wanted to say a few more things. I think one mark of the greatness of an artist is how other people are or how they influence other people. And so there has been a lot of work created about Gertrude Stein, inspired by Gertrude Stein, in imitation of Gertrude Stein. So I just wanted to show you a few of those things, and that is how we will end. So this is a children's book by Jonah Winter, illustrated by Caleb Brown, called Gertrude is Gertrude is Gertrude. Of course, that's what it's called. So I'm not going to read you the whole thing. I'll just read you a little. Gertrude is Gertrude is Gertrude. That's the first page. Gertrude is Gertrude is Gertrude. And Alice is Alice, and Gertrude and Alice are Gertrude and Alice. Well, it's like this. You walk up the stairs and there they are. They are sitting in chairs and there they are, staring where they are staring. Not the chairs. Chairs never stare. Chairs are where you sit and stare. Sometimes a bear barely sits in a chair, but wait a minute, there's no bear there, heavens no, there is just Gertrude staring in her chair, and her chair is not even barely a chair, no, 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 it's a throne. And while Alice sleeps, I skipped ahead a little bit. And while Alice sleeps, Gertrude is writing. The nighttime is the right time for writing. So that's why Gertrude is writing and writing every nighttime. And in the morning, Gertrude sleeps. And in the morning, while Gertrude sleeps, Alice is typing. Alice is typing up Gertrude's writing, whatever it is. Oh, Gertrude writes whatever. Pages and pages and pages and pages with words all over the pages. My goodness, what fun to write, whatever words occur. So here is Alice typing and Gertrude writing. And it just ends with, you see, Miss Gertrude is a genius, and a genius is a genius. So what if no one understands a word she writes? Someday they might. But tonight, Miss Gertrude is just so happy as a baby, so happy. And Alice is happy as a mother, so happy. And the stars shine brightly outside the window. So there is that. There is, I was the editor of this anthology, My Lover is a Woman. It came out years ago. I think some of people on this call are in it, right? But this is a poem by Maxine Hirschman called Making Love to Alice. I imagine Gertrude making love to Alice, her generous and wise mouth upon her breast, her arms around hers, the way bodies fitting together. Strangely, they are different and wonderfully they are together. Gertrude being warm and full and with Alice, and Alice being warm and full with Gertrude, who is with her, and the way she is with her, laughing. I imagine they must know each other, the two, the one. It is as with you and I, it is with us as them, she then she, you then I, imagine, and in the act of imagining, make love to love to love to love. And that is by Marcy Hirschman. And I'm going to read my Gertrude Stein imitation, which is from my book, Signs of Love. This is an old poem. So I'm guessing that I probably wrote it when I was at Naropa and studying her work. So that would have been in 1980, and it's called Waiting. She stood in the living room waiting, with all her weight on one leg, her arms folded, her head against the window, watching the evening bloom into blueness and blossom into blackness, with the lights going on in the houses all around her and the stars. This was not what she was waiting for she was still waiting. Waiting for what? She did not know. Still, she stood still, waiting. And the darkness waited with her, and the darkness waited without her, and this was a comfort to her. She made a cup of tea, and while she stood still waiting, she waited for the water to boil, and this was a different kind of waiting, a smaller kind of waiting, in the larger kind of waiting, just the right kind of waiting she had been waiting for to wait. And after she had waited for the waiting came, and she waited it out, and then the waiting was over, and then the waiting for the waiting was over, and then only the waiting was left, so she waited and drank her tea and held the empty cup for its warmth, held something for her as she waited, and the darkness waited with her, and the darkness waited without her, and this was a comfort to her while she waited, with her hands holding the cup and the cup holding her hands. And after a while she was still standing, still waiting, watching the night move into mauve and melt into morning, all the lights went out in the houses all around her and the stars. So I just wanted to show you a few other things. There is a very interesting novel that Risa told me about called The Book of Salt, and that was published in 2003. It is written by Monique. I'm not sure how to say her last name, so I'll spell it Truong. The Book of Salt is a novel told in the voice of Gertrude and Alice's cook. So that is another take on their lives. There is a play and you really can't make this up. It's called Gertrude Stein, Gertrude Stein, Gertrude Stein. What you can't make up is that the author's name is Marty Martin. Can you believe that? That's very funny, I think. So it's a one-person play, and was originally performed by Pat Carroll, who I saw, and she just really takes on the persona so, so beautifully. It's amazing. And then Gertrude Stein wrote a long piece called Lifting Belly, and our very own beloved lesbian poet Susan Stinson has a book called Belly Songs, which are beautiful. And she has work in here called Lifting Belly or Belly Song that incorporates Lifting Belly in it. So I'm pretty sure this is back in print, which is a wonderful thing. So you can find that. And so what I'm going to end with is I decided just as a writing exercise to write a Gertrude Stein-ish poem. So I really recommend that people do this. Just, you know, try to, this is what I did anyway. I took all my preconceived notions about language, about meaning, about poetry. I just threw it all out the window and tried to just play with words the way Gertrude Stein plays with words. And this is what I came up with. So I will leave us with that, and then I'm looking forward to the open reading. It's just called Same, Same. All the same, it was all the same. It wasn't all the same at all. It wasn't the same, same. What a shame. It was different, different, same difference, different difference. It was the same, but different, but the same, different, same, same old, old, old. Old is old is old is new, the new old, the new new. Now, there, there is the old, there is the new. There the old is older, bolder, colder. There the new is newer, bluer, fewer. The bold, cold, old, the blue, few, new. New to who? New to you. Who are you? You are who? Who and you are two. True. So just have fun with it, you know. I, made some connections here that, as Gertrude Stein says, you can't really think about it before or think about it after. It just happens with the writing. So thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to hearing the open reading now.
Lesléa Newman, that was extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. Prismatic, poignant, charming, uplifting, everything. I imagine every single one of us could have hoped for, but not imagined, and yet imagined at the same time through your wonderful, wonderful carnival of your work, Steins, today. Thank you so much. I am absolutely beside myself with how much joy and revelry the work brought out in me, remembering the times that I've sat with Stein and felt all the things that you evoked. So it was just such a wonderful reminder of how truly important the work is, as one of our four sisters, and for you to embody that today truly was such an incredible gift. Thank you so much. Wow. I'm practically speechless, which is a great thing.
Thank you so much for your kind words.
Absolutely. Well, my friends, there you have it. Lesléa Newman, card number two in the series. You see why Lesléa Newman is card number two. Reading the work of Gertrude Stein, card number 15 in the very first lesbian trading card series from Headmistress Press. Risa reminded me that these are out, the first set, The first series is out of print currently, but all the others are available. And you should aspire to be like Yeva Johnson and I and try to own them all. I don't know. Maybe you can buy the first set on eBay. I don't know. Do whatever you can because you're going to need these two cards after having been here for this historic reading and talk today here on the Collectibles Lesbian Trading Card Reading Series. Thank you again, Lesléa. Well, my friends, check out Lesléa's work, her numerous books that span her children's books and essays and poetry, and of course those 3 books of poetry from Headmistress Press. Lovely. I Carry My Mother, and the newest, I Wish My Father. And if you want to hear Lesléa reading from I Wish My Father, she'll be reading with Cultivating Voices live poetry April 25th. The other reading series I host the day after my birthday. So what a great birthday present I'm going to get on April 25th. Thank you. Hey, all the cards and the books make fantastic New Year's gifts, birth gifts, Valentine's. Think of all the love. Get yourself some love and give it to your beloved. All right, now to our open mic readers for today. I'm equally looking forward to, to the magic continuing. We have 4 poets today in our winter wonderland here on the Collectibles. And I will introduce each as they read. First, we have today Bonnie J. Moore. Bonnie is a women's history professor, a finalist for the 2020 Excellence in Teaching Prize at UC Berkeley, and the author of 17 books, including Eden Built by Eves, a finalist for the Lambda Literary Award, The Disappearing Elle, and The Feminist Revolution, which made Oprah's book list as a must-read for Women's History Month. Bonnie's also published the time travel novel, Sappho's Bar and Grill, with Bywater Books, which was a finalist for the Forward National Award in LGBT fiction, and in 2018 won the Dick's Kitchen Award from Southern Illinois University. Dr. Bonnie won the Finishing Line Press Poetry Award for her first chapbook, The Schoolgirl's Atlas, and is now proud to be a new Headmistress Press poet with her forthcoming volume, Earlier Households. Would you please welcome, there it is, Bonnie Morris.
Wow, what an introduction, and what an honor to be among some of my life role models. I'm very honored that Lesléa actually contributed a blurb on the back of the book, and I was fortunate to have this incredible photograph by celebrated lesbian photographer Donna Gottschalk. I'm just going to jump in and read 3 quick little pieces to give you a taste of the book that officially was published January 12th and will be launched with others on the 6th of February. And very different from Gertrude Stein, I resonate with everything about the writing life and the pen to paper. So I'm going to start with some early stuff, all of which was composed with a fountain pen in that way. And this is about my insane crush on my first real girlfriend in college, called Sunday Ride, a Beltway poem, if there ever was one. That summer was strewn with pines, caked flat with waterfall boulders, wrapped in an old sheet. That summer was hot with flavored rice, with dancers in their supplicating poses, soft formations, Pale rain on a Buick windshield, bare feet on the red canal path. You rolled your rosy limbs into the end of summer, greening my ache with your light eyes, your fresh-baked sweets, your breathless laugh, picking your way with ease across the asphalt. Get in, I said. We're going for a drive. Here in the car, the tender cupping ride, both of us bound for our secret battles. Driving the edge, the strip from outer Baltimore. I'll leave your flannel kisses there by noon. I'll drive away that song I never liked and ease my heart to yours. Now take the wheel. You're driving neatly at the helm, silent and unarmored. Gravel, trees, a traffic dream of blunders left behind. This car is a journey anyone can see, a moving late oasis. Your open face preserves what is unphotographable, a drive that is an arrow shot into the loving arc of humid August. Your open face shows nothing that is thought but not expressed. Get out, you asked, in disbelieving proudness, and hanging damp-necked from the delicate elbow of the car door handle, I worked to keep my cool. And gosh, I was about 18 then. Now here's something interesting. This seems to resonate with people who have read it. This has quoted in the blurbs that I'm honored to have. So I hardly ever have read this. It's called Shards. And it's about a friend of mine who was struggling with a medical issue and who I befriended and cared for a while. Pain moves in the head like shells in the tide, like crescent shards that curl over the drift. Your blanket wrapped upon the couch, turned to the walls, perhaps some object in your fist. These static scenes, conditions take up all our time. Awake, alert, you waver between changes, fingers on your pen. In slumber, you're passive. I'm in the rocker, writing, waiting, cold in these distractions, silences. I never knew you as a girl or as a whole. I know you in this pond of your night terrors where I swim. I am the lifeguard who will not concede to watch a woman drown tonight. Some days I live beneath your eyelids, rising only in your glance. My body shudders with your moods. I'm breaking through a wave that has no nickname, here where you are breathing, without drowning, riding on an even keel at last. There's a lot of history there that I'll talk about some other time. And here's honestly one of my favorites. It's called Cliffside. And if you know the coast of California, where I live now, this is set in Mendocino, beautiful redwood right up to the water's edge, where I stayed with an old lover once. Cliffside. At daybreak, the late winter whale anchors at the bay, unseen and unwished for. I'm sleeping fast with one rib touching you, one bone's excuse for contact. If you should shift, it wouldn't be to wake me. Berries drop soundlessly, eaten by dazed geese. This is a quietness unbroken by the awnings scrolling up, the doors pushed out to let in daylight. Old bookshelves creak with unread weight. My notebooks flutter empty. The hour, the whale, the written word share that invisibility, though all three are important. You move away from me the way a stiff drawer opens, stuttering, shiny, something keeps splintering off. You move toward me like a stiff chair waits, knowing, not approving, the bulk of my intent. Drawer, chair, away, towards, pulling, splintering. We two make a room in disarray where old women lived, have lived, are living. At night, suitcases close up, swallowing our sandy sneakers. The miles walked by playful feet will vanish in our luggage. We become again travelers, mere companions, not dangerous lovers, not reckless legs and hearts. Thank you very much. I'm very proud to be a headmistress poet. The book is Earlier Households, published this week, launched on the 6th of February, and Happy New Year to all. May we feel the pen meet the page.
Brava, Bonnie Morris, brava on your new book from Headmistress Press. I can't wait to attend that launch on February 6th. Congratulations on adding to your illustrious body of work. And thanks for being here today on this just fantastic, fantastic first reading of the new year for the Collectibles reading series. What a joy. I've been meaning to thank our audience too, those of you who are with us here in the Zoom studio. And of course, I hope those of you who are going to be watching us later on are really reveling in what you are witnessing and listening to today. Well, our next reader is just, we have just such extraordinary folks today, such wonderfully accomplished women. Dr. Jennifer Abod is an award-winning video documentarian, The Edge of Each Other's Battles, The Vision of Audre Lorde, The Passionate Pursuits of Angela Bowen, Look Us in the Eye, The Old Women's Project, Nice Chinese Girls Don't. She's a former radio broadcaster and assistant professor. She was the singer in the New Haven Women's Liberation Rock Band. New Haven's just 30 miles down the street from where I am right now. And her poetry will be in the January issue this month of Sinister Wisdom, another such important publication of lesbian work. She is currently completing her first poetry manuscript. Welcome to you, Jennifer. Thank you so much for being with us. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited and also very nervous. But I'm thrilled to be in the company of Lesléa Newman, who I knew when we were both able to go through the 70s, and Bonnie J. Morris, who's been wonderful to document the history of the women's liberation rock bands that nobody's actually heard of and will disappear without her writing about it. And so this is this has been a time for me to write. So I'm learning, and here it goes. It's called What Can Be Fixed. We wake to fires and ash. Millions of us are disappearing. So is the land, democracy, insanity. Death is closer. The workers arrive wearing masks, lugging ladders, hammers, drills. They'll replace house bones, 1909 redwood boards, scrape away worn yellow siding, paint peeling window frames. The sound of repair each morning, a strange comfort. At least something is being fixed. This is called Silent Rage. We're in a restaurant. With a laugh, she says, my husband calls himself an honorary lesbian. Was he ever afraid to hold his wife's hand? Did he ever fear losing his job, his children, his life? Did he hide his desire for his college roommate? I buried mine in butter and crackers, painted clowns with sad faces, kept it from my family, from myself, and the boy who wanted to marry. Silenced on the radio where I spoke, fought myths and rumors where I taught. Was I going to molest the girls? And that woman expected me to laugh with her? Hell no. This is called Dish Envy. I remember that first summer, tall brown frame, white short sleeve shirt, bare arms, her back. I'm leaning into the kitchen doorway, the Victorian house where she's lived with husband, 2 biological children, 2 rescued from abuse, Memories of her firstborn son, 3 years old, killed by a drunk driver in the car her husband was driving. I can't believe she's let me in. Through the open window, a summer breeze, water trickles in the old porcelain sink, and soapy water, her hands caress each dish. I lean into the doorway of her kitchen, watching, wanting to be a dish in her sink. Can I read a few more? I don't remember. I thought we had about 5 minutes. Is that, but tell me to, is it okay? I should, okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. This is called Walking in Freedom's Shoes, Philadelphia, 1982. Snowy cobblestones under feet. We pass charming store windows, old street lamps newly lit. Her fearless fingers reach for my unsure hand. She says, I haven't come this far, gone through all this, not to hold your hand. Oh boy. Okay. Okay, this is called Greens. Our Cambridge kitchen, too small for four, but home with its little table, the not very good stove, where she bakes cornbread and cooks Christmas collards with salt pork and spices, a tradition prepared by enslaved ancestors who knew the plant's value. Sweet and pungent odors steam the yellow wallpaper with tiny brown flowers on the two narrowed paned windows with their bare-branched winter view. I'm going to read one more because I want to end on a nice note, kind of. The love of my life, Angela Bowen, Dr. Angela Bowen. That's her painting back there, which I did, which I was pleased about. She died 2.5 years ago. I was her caregiver. She had Alzheimer's for 8 years. This is called Dance Lesson. We would dance in the living room, on a sidewalk, at the beach. I had 37 years to memorize her dancing, how it stirred the air. That last time, in the black and white cotton dress, legs at rest in the wheelchair, I sway her brown arms high and wide, her eyes pools of rain in moonlight. Now when a soulful beat takes hold, knowing she'd want me to, I dance.
Wow. I love that picture. I love that picture of Angela. And it's so important, that we document our lives as individuals and together with our beloveds. So keep working on that first manuscript. We need it. We need it.
Thank you very much.
And I look forward to hearing your work again soon. Thank you, Jennifer. Our next reader in the open mic is Gail Thomas, who in our sound check is coming through loud and clear today. Gail Thomas's most recent book is Odd Mercy, which was selected by Ellen Bass for Headmistress Press's Charlotte Mew Prize. Her previous books include No Simple Wilderness, Finding the Bear, and Waving Back, which was named a Massachusetts Center for the Books Must Read. Gail's poems have been widely published in journals and anthologies, and Gail currently lives with her wife in the wonderful, wonderful part of the world as Northampton, Massachusetts. Welcome, Gail.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you all. Thank you to the readers, to Lesléa. Lesléa also wrote a blurb for my book, Odd Mercy. Very generous. Lesléa is one of the most generous writers I know. And I'm in awe of her generosity. So thank you. I'm going to read two poems. The first one was written at the beginning of the pandemic, back in March, and I had been given a writing residency at a cabin in the woods here in Western Massachusetts, knowing what was going on around me. It's called Getaway. Imagine a pandemic getaway to an empty beach with space and lungs full of salt air, with no shorebirds skittering the tide line at the cove. The dog is disappointed. Ah, but there's the dark, oily head of a gray seal popping up between waves, catching sun, looking at you. Yes, you. Chaos is far away. Now imagine a golden-eyed toad staring with such longing it may be your long-dead lover. And a ginkgo tree, which is not at the beach, lifting its arms, spreading shade like a light blanket. Green fans waving at the slightest breeze. Back home, a fat-headed Phoebe, guardian of the stairs, flits to the rail, waiting for you to reach the porch light that burns all day. The bird expects you to leave again, perhaps to enter the deep woods, where a bear's loud chuffing warns, turn back, and you do. Thank you. This poem is called The Crossing. In the spring of my daughter's 10th year, she studied spotted salamanders, how with the first warm rain, they crossed a busy road at night, propelled by magnetic and chemical signals to find their birth pool, a half-mile from the pile of rotted leaves and bark where they slept, not stopping at other ponds until they reached home waters. She designed a sign to warn cars, and a tunnel was built under the road that spring after spring was plastered with flattened bodies like ink blots. By then, her father had stopped calling, and a lawyer tried to extract monthly payments. I applied for fuel assistance when our wood ran out. In another state, his next wife delivered their baby. My daughter wanted to visit. She wore a mask and held the swaddled infant introduced as her sister before returning to our cottage, where we bundled in coats like stranded travelers while cold drafts whistled through the walls. After laying eggs in her natal pond, the mother salamander returns to the woods alone. When her young can survive on land, they leave to mature for 4 or 5 years before they attempt the unmapped migration. One spring night in my daughter's 18th year, the phone startled me awake. An accident. The car totaled, but saved from tumbling down a bridge embankment. My daughter and friends shaken, but uninjured. Spotted salamanders navigate the annual journey for 18 years, but only if they traverse that road in 88 seconds. 18 years of predators, drought, freeze, the eager hands of children, but only if they survive the crossing. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gail. And again, I'm just beside myself with everything that folks have brought today, and all of your beings. I mean, everything that you've done with your lives and what you've brought to it through your poetry. It really is shining through on this winter day. Thank you. Well, my friends here in the Zoom Poetry Studio here, our final reader for today, and I kind of wrote in the chat, I don't want it to end, but I'm also feeling very full and satisfied at the same time. Our last reader for today is Virginia Petrucci. Virginia is a writer and artist based in Southern California. She is a former columnist for the LA Post-Examiner, and her second poetry chapbook, The Salt and the Song, was a semi-finalist for the Charlotte Mew Prize through Headmistress Press. Isn't it patently obvious today that Headmistress Press knows what the heck it is doing with all of these fabulous poets? Virginia's poetry has been Pushcart nominated, and fiction has been nominated for the Best American Short Stories and Best Small Fiction Anthologies. Her work has appeared in the Gay and Lesbian Review, Mom Egg Review, and Best New Writing, among others. Welcome, Virginia, and thanks for taking us out today.
Well, thank you so much. And it's an absolute honor and pleasure to be included in this reading with so many amazing poets. It's really, really humbling. I'm going to start with a poem of mine that was published in the Gay and Lesbian Review in, I believe it was December 2019. My Leopard. My leopard comes for me in the stew of night. Her scent pulls taut, the light that rooms in bits of scattered moon. Her whiskers like dust across my eyes, she purrs in slight. His shadows, they study her aggrieved, frothing face. They endeavor and fail to learn her might. This is an unpublished poem of mine. The aftermath of a body no longer in tune. Her vagina has no agency, nor does his. And if it did, the voice would cripple the cankered wood on which this pale house gleams. We want to be equal, but I don't see what's so very equal about an inversion. In some groups, our holes are feared to have teeth. In some groups, I am feared to be dead. This next poem is from the first chapbook I published called Recipes and How-Tos through Red Flag Poetry. How to make everyone jealous. Be a prism. Be the flu. Be it. Standard proclamation, levitation. Make it through first grade. Set the table. Invitations for all. Most, some. Circus slut about. Hostess. Loaves, fish, apples. Gold becomes fruit. Wait for it. Midas, almost. Sing, like snail, breath. Let them critter crawl into you. See the empty in you. In them, be the empty. And the final poem I'm going to read is from my chapbook, The Salt and the Song. published through Headmistress Press. A question posed against the sea. A halting sunwise anxious, a voice thrown silent by the crushing tide, a twice pooled moon about, and a damn sharp shell. A howl like envy gone empty, a hell like inner shift child, a whisper wanting suns. The sky tells the same stories every black night. The moon mothers the sea like a double daughter gone amiss. The frequent becomes forgotten, an estimate becomes a truth, and the water splits into 1,000 grand and tiny misfits. Questions posed against the sea, since time got wet and human peopled themselves to the point of no return. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Virginia. Folks, before I make some final remarks and let you know about next month, how about we unmute and give everybody, Lesléa and Bonnie, and Jennifer, Gail, and Virginia, just you know, show our appreciation. Oh, it's terrific, fantastic. Thank you. Well, everybody, as I said, I want to thank all our readers in the open mic, and we began earlier this afternoon or evening, depending where you are. We do have Anne Walsh Donnelly joining us from Ireland, so it is squarely in the evening there. We began earlier in the reading with Lesléa Newman reading from the work Stein. I should say the illustrious, the illuminating Lesléa Newman. Fantastic. If you enjoyed our reading today, and frankly, I don't know how you couldn't. You wouldn't be on the same planet I was if you didn't enjoy what you witnessed and heard today. I do hope you'll join us next month on Saturday, February 12th, same time, 12 Pacific, 1 Mountain, 2 Central, 3 Eastern. That's 8 p.m. in Ireland and UK, when we're going to welcome Minnie Bruce Pratt, sharing the work of Naomi Raplansky. A reminder to always check your time zones for the correct time of the readings. And also a final reminder that you can purchase the trading cards. They're so fun to have, as well as all the Headmistress Press titles that we heard from today, as well as so many more at the Headmistress Press website. I so this reading series because it is both absolutely in the moment and historic at the same time, by bringing the voices of our elder stateswomen poets through the voices of such amazing contemporary writers. So I hope you'll join next month and every month through this year for the Collectibles Lesbian Trading Card Reading Series. Well, I've been your host today, and it has been, you know, I'm the luckiest person on the planet to be an audience member here today. I'm Sandy Yanone, and I'm the author of Boats for Women from Salmon Poetry, and host of Cultivating Voices live poetry open mic on another Zoom channel. And we have our weekly readings every Sunday, so join us tomorrow if you care to. I wish you all continued peace as we hopefully ease further into 2021. I, for one, am so excited to see Kamala Harris sworn in as our vice president on Wednesday, and I hope for a very peaceful inauguration and transfer of political power I will just say one final thing about some of our readers today, mentioning their first books or working on their new manuscripts. My book was my debut collection from 2019, took 21 years to publication. I like to share to encourage you all to keep writing, stay inspired, keep, keep doing the good work. And it's been a real pleasure to spend time listening to poetry and biography and stories of women together. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you next month.